All right, you guys, we're back for another live.
Whoop, whoop.
This time, do you think that the Garden of Eden is factual? Is it just made up?
If you ask me, there's so many odd things in that story that don't make sense. So I have far too many questions if it's a real story.
And that's right for you to say it. It's okay for you to say it because some stuff really don't add up.
No, it doesn't. Maybe we're just supposed to ask the bigger questions, like have those philosophical thoughts about it. I don't know.
Right? Like maybe instead of taking it as a literal thing, it's better to just ask questions instead of just going along with what everyone says.
Ask those questions, baby. Get your brain thinking.
Ask them, ask them, ask them. But we're glad that you guys joined us on today. We are going to throw in a quick intro to give you guys some time to join on. And I hope I put the right one this time. Let's see.
We'll find out.
I probably won't have the right one this time, but I'll have it right next week. So let's just throw it on.
Echoes of the Past podcast was such a fitting name, right? It touches on how we like to dig into past history, but also we're uncovering our own past of sorts.
Yeah, there are ideas that were off limits before because of my spiritual upbringing.
I believe you and I are going to have a great time delving into these topics without thoughts of punishment or retribution, which always held me back.
Yeah, Echoes of the Past will not only be our safe place for discovery, but hopefully our audience will be open-minded with us and join us on these new ideas. What do you think about the name we chose?
So do you remember when King David took a census of all the fighting men in the kingdom?
1 Corinthians 11:3 should be approached carefully, understanding its biblical context, its cultural background, and the principles of love.
Well, Yahweh murdered 70,000 people as punishment.
Literally is a matter of life and death, and it's important that everyone realizes the harm that shunning practices cause.
And we're going to use my book of Bible stories.
They don't believe in women in position of power. They don't even allow them to give speeches. They don't even allow them to pray.
There's been something I've wanted to share with you all. It's all about something I was indoctrinated to believe as a child.
What it do?
We are actually, in fact, alive, punk. I promise you.
We are live now. There's no hiding from us.
You cannot get away. Try as you may.
Yep.
Just like the Jehovah's Witnesses, we're going to come to your door.
Oh my God.
Instead, we're appearing on your YouTube screen, on your monitor.
And those guys don't give up, so you think you turn off your screen, we're going to be right there.
They taught us well.
Yep.
Be very afraid.
But welcome.
Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is officially our fourth show.
Cuatro.
Cuatro.
Can you say cuatro?
Cuatro.
Can you say cuatro?
Backpack. Hey, today we're going to be looking at the map. We're going to be finding the place of perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are.
The Garden of Eden.
El Jardín de Edén.
Oh, ooh.
Like that? Like
Spicy.
that translation?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Yeah, that's why Spanish people make a lot of babies.
It's the language of love.
Yep. Language of love.
Yeah, like it.
You ever play that game, It Takes Two?
No.
It Takes Two. It's a video game. It's about a couple who are on the brink of divorce, and they somehow get lost in this video game. They wake up, they fall asleep, and for all of a sudden, like they're in this video game world, and their daughter is like trying to get them to come back together. So I guess they gotta like play all their literal toys. They become like miniature sized toys, and they're the daughter's toys. And they have to make their way to like the end of the game in order to survive. And then along the way, they have this book called The Book of Love, and it talks to them. And he's freaking Mexican, and so it's hilarious.
Oh,
It
Well,
just
there you
reminds
go.
me of it. If anybody knows what that game is or have ever played it, just put that in the chat. I know this is not we're gonna eat and stuff, but hey, it's fun to talk
Hey,
about
it's
random stuff.
relationship stuff, and we're going to be talking about some relationships today, right?
Adam and Eve.
Boom. The
Adam
first
and the couple.
relationship. Yeah, the first couple, Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, um,
Adán y Eva.
so when you were a Jehovah's Witness,
Yep.
you just believed it was a true story.
I believe there was a true story. I believe it was a story where the woman effed up and talked to some damn snake, and the man was like, "Word," and then just eats the apple, and then that's the story.
Yeah, same. I think I pretty much believed it. I kind of didn't really get it. It didn't make sense to me. Like, why did snakes talk at one time? Why don't they talk anymore? Like, it just seemed a bit more fairy tale-ish, but I didn't have any choice but to accept it as reality. So
Mm-hmm.
you do. And you're right. The women take the blame for sin or all the atrocities that happen in the world.
Sadly,
And
yep.
and therefore the patriarchy usurps the matriarchy.
Yeah. But on this episode, we're going to be kind of asking those unquestioned questions.
Yeah, unquestioned question.
One of them being, was it really real, or made up, or maybe there is some truth to it, or was it a metaphor? You know, there's a lot of questions that people don't tend to ask, and as a witness, you don't want to ask those questions or even allowed to ask those questions, but here you're free to.
Yeah, to be fair, even if we did ask some of these big questions, I don't think they'd be ready for that.
Oh no,
I
that could. Go ahead.
No, they'd have no idea what you were talking about. Like if you tried to ask them about symbolism or, is this some kind of school of thought, like
Hmm.
good versus evil, and what happens when people do bad things? I
Yeah.
think that would be too big of a thought.
Yep. Hmm. Yeah, it's central. It's core. You would think it's like the 1914 teaching, which is core to the doctrine, to basically every doctrine. It's like the umbrella, right? Without it, you're wet, you're disgusting, you're a mess. And with this whole creation story, it's the same thing because it's like it's what makes who Satan is, who Jehovah is, and who our first fathers are. And with their lineage comes Seth, which is a whole mess, and that's who we all are. So, yeah,
We're all Seth.
we're all Seth.
We're all
Oh,
Seth.
we're all Sethians.
Just call me Seth from now on.
Just Miss Lady Seth.
But so when people come in, we did ask a poll.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe the Garden of Eden is allegorical, literal, or something to be like metaphorical and get your juices flowing? We only have 4 votes as of right now.
I'm actually gonna check that out. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have, okay, it looks like most of the votes are for allegory, which is what I myself would say that it's allegorical. Not
Okay.
something that's meant to be. I mean, if it's a real, dude, if it's a real story, okay, so supposedly Moses wrote it. Who the frick told Moses?
I struggled with that for a while. It's the same story of like if when Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, did somebody just chill
Yeah.
there with him?
Who told his story? Because Jesus didn't write anything down. And then of course, like they'll make up the excuse, well, oh, it's divine, it was revealed to Moses. Okay, Moses never says any of that. Sure, if that's what you'd like to think, go ahead.
Right. Hmm.
Um,
I have had a lot of mixed feelings about the story of Eden as of late.
oh, really?
I have had definitely not a literal understanding of it. it's either metaphorical or something that happened, but just pieces are not where they're supposed to be, and they're missing. That's how I interpret it. It's either one of those two.
Well, I feel like there's got to be something missing because
Yeah,
taking it straightforward, it really doesn't. I mean, the end of this, not the end of the story, but there's a part where Cain goes and gets himself a wife. Where'd she come from? All of a sudden, we got a whole civilization elsewhere.
yeah,
Please.
right. And there's a lot of tablets that will tell you what the actual story is. Shocker, the Bible comes from tablets, right? Manuscripts, blah, blah, blah. However, there's a lot that has been taken out. And of that is one of those things are the creation story where it was changed a little bit. And I did some digging and some research.
Rechurch? You should rechurch.
I should
Don't go
reach.
to the
I
same.
have to research because I'm talking some nonsense right now. To the average Christian and Jehovah's Witness, I am talking nonsense, but it's about more of understanding that this is all the Bible was made. I still stand by it. The Bible was made as like it's just a story, not a literal event, but at the same time misplaced, and a lot of it is made to control, and a lot of the religion today, a lot of the churches today will use that to control people because it's, first of all, it's a man's Bible. I mean, look at how Eve is being portrayed as basically the blame, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what I read and understood was the woman was actually key and the special one. The man is just some dude that's just chilling there, um, who was naked.
He had sang out.
Yep, yep. And there's a lot that we're gonna cover today. I have some information. Ryan has more, but we'll go with that. I guess we could start off with whatever you brought up, Ryan.
Well, how about this? Why don't we ask? Well, I'll ask you and the audience, what symbols do you think, like just reading the story without any prior knowledge, are there symbols that you feel probably relate to other themes, motifs from cross cultures? Is there anything for you that stands out? And then maybe we could discuss those particular symbols and if they do have any connection. Meh.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
There are many stories too that have like a cross.
Oh yeah.
Many
Seriously.
many stories,
If you
right?
could pinpoint approximately when they were written, all you
Ooh,
have to do is look into other Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and you're going to see some of those similar
yep.
ideas forming. Yeah. Cultural transmission, bro. You can't stop it. There's no such thing as walls. People talk, people travel.
And we follow that tradition today. It's called biting off of people's information. He just caught.
Appropriation.
I mean, I'm a break dancer. I come from, I used to be a b-boy, go to competitions and stuff. And a lot of the times, if someone was copying somebody's moves, we would call them a biter.
Yeah, biter. That's the word I use, biter.
So that's pretty much how things run. It's no different in the ancient
No.
civilization. Like everything is just, it's it's a story. Someone copies that story, changes it a little bit, and it just keeps, it's a cycle. And that's why there's a lot of similarities, and a lot of people tend to wonder, man, is this true? Is that true? Because you have to do a lot of digging to find the origin of where these stories come from. But do any of you guys do you guys think of anything that may seem similar to the Adam and Eve story or the creation story that
Or any
catches your eye?
symbols, yeah, or any of the symbols that stand out to you. If you have any questions about them, if not, don't worry. I can just jump in and tell you what, like I think. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so pragmatic crystal says tree of life is in many mythologies, 100%. Winged
Mm-hmm.
creatures, yeah, winged creatures is another one.
Oh
As
yeah. Mm-hmm. Heck,
So,
the freaking serpent, bro. There's a lot of meaning behind that.
oh yeah, and I was blown away when I found out how related even some of the words are. The etymology of the words are related. Like my brain was like, "Oh my freaking god, there's so much more here that was hidden because it's intentionally hidden." I don't think we weren't supposed to know what was being hidden. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, to those readers in that context, they would know this information, so they would understand what is intentionally being spun in, a specific way now. Um, should I bring up my thingy that I have for the
Um,
symbolism?
yeah, I was trying to. How do you share images? I think I just share my screen. This is just to go with Pragmatic Crystal's comment about the tree that I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you should. If you can't figure out how to do it, sometimes I have to drag the picture into the window,
Window
like yeah, the Chrome window or whatever your browser you're using, and then
oh,
share that window.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Just to
sometimes
see, you see how women are something.
we're very creative.
um,
Got to find a way around the problem.
and then the problem that I'm having right now is it's not working, but it gives me the little plus sign like it's working. So I'll let you do you, and I'll figure all
Okay.
this out in the
Yeah, you,
background.
you you keep going. Eventually, I'm sure we'll figure that out. Oops, this
Hmm.
needs to be much larger. Sorry, guys. And that's
Yep.
one thing too. It doesn't orient properly when you open your window. Now this window is like freaking huge. But anyway, so the tree. Let's start with the tree. The tree of life
Hmm.
is a theme that you can find in so many cultures. Here we're looking at a tree with a titty. She got a titty nipple, a long,
Sucking on that.
yeah, long titty nipple. But but just imagine what that invokes when you see that. A tree really does give
Yeah.
nutrition, life.
Yep.
It gives shade. It gives you a home. There's so many things that a tree provides in nature. Um, and this one of, I believe it's Nut, the goddess Nut. I might be saying it wrong.
Newt. Yeah.
Yeah. But same symbology. Her legs are the trunk of the tree. She has uh, what I'm guessing is some kind of water of life that these worshipers maybe are drinking from.
Hmm.
And it continues. We see again a goddess on the left hand side, the tree symbology, somebody below her drinking from these waters of life that she provides, a worshiper kneeling before her, giving her, offering her something. Again, we just continue to see this tree symbology over and over associated with the goddesses, right? So it's something that isn't necessarily, doesn't mean it's not, but not necessarily pictured that we're seeing portraying men. That seems to come later when men begin to appropriate or bite, as you said,
Yeah.
the
Pretty much.
symbology and the imagery of the goddess. Once again, we see
Hmm.
the goddess situated behind her is a snake. That snake symbology, when the snake is upright, it means that the divine energy is flowing through it like a mediator. Almost like a, what is that called on top of that rod? That rod that people put on top of their houses, and I don't, anyway.
The rod that people put on top of the houses.
Yeah, I think it does something like with electricity. It's
Oh.
not electricity, but lightning is supposed to keep it away or something. Anywho, off topic.
Hmm.
These pendants go back to around the Bronze Age, 13th century BCE. And if you notice below, like the face, there is a triangle, a pubic triangle, which symbolizes life and fertility, because of course that was of utmost importance back in the day, making sure you could carry on your lineage. But also from that pubic triangle is sprouting the tree of life. So this imagery is synonymous with the goddess. There's no way around it. It's right there in history. The artifacts show us the proof. And even back into Canaan, where Asherah kind of sprouts from, where Yahweh supposedly springs from. Even still, we see this tree imagery with animals surrounding it because she is a goddess who created all the living things. So beforehand, before the males kind of dominated the scene, it was the goddesses who were seen as being fruitful and the progenitress of
Hmm.
humans and living things, until eventually, like I said before, and I keep saying it, the patriarchy does what it does, and it does steal everything. So,
Yeah.
and again, on the left-hand side, you see the snakes coming directly from her pubic triangle. And snakes also are very intertwined with fertility. They use them in cults with
Yeah.
healing, regeneration. And if you recall in the Moses story with the bronze serpent that he put up on
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
right?
Yeah.
And if you look
Hmm.
upon that image, you would be healed
Yeah.
because she's a healer. And, one and the same, the goddess, snakes, the tree of life, symbols, all so fluently in that story. Like, in my opinion, now that I see it, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all I have for that. How do you guys did you guys ever know, like, obviously I'm not the one to tell you this, but beforehand when you were indoctrinated, would you have had a clue of how deep these meanings go? These divine symbols.
Right. Anybody have any thought that any of this meant something extra, something at all? Good morning.
Well, because we're just told the snake is Satan and that's that. So you don't
Yeah.
think beyond that. You almost
And
don't want to because you're kind of afraid to, because you're talking about the devil here.
and Satan was never introduced as the serpent in the garden until way after.
Oh yeah, that was made up. That's a Christian thing that came long after the
Mm-hmm.
Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That's not yeah, these things have been reinterpreted and readapted throughout the centuries, rewritten, redacted. And again, that's what humans do. Like, people bite and then they they bite off one another and then they take it and mush it
Mm-hmm.
around, and because they're inspired. Like you said before, this is what humans do. We get inspired by one another. We want to argue, like, oh, he's using the snake to do this. Well, guess what? My God can do this with that snake. It's just throwing your D around, like we said before,
Yep.
in a reimagination and reinterpretation.
Yep. Yes, sir, Bob.
It's fun. Oh, I want to see the Norse mythology, the world serpent or Midgard serpent, known as Jormungandr. Jormungandr.
That's good.
Thank you. I think I did pretty well. Encircled the world in the ocean's abyss, biting its own tail. In Hindu mythology, Lord Vishnu is said to sleep while floating. Ooh.
Hmm.
Oh, floating on the cosmic waters on the serpent Shisha. Oh, that's so cool.
That's interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
and
I,
have you ever considered, like, what the serpent is supposed to symbolize? Like, this watery serpent, like, what is it? Why do we continue to see that in all these mythologies? It must mean something deeper.
for me personally, I see the serpent as an escape plan.
Oh,
That's how I see it. A symbol of life, a symbol of a fresh start. That's how I see it. I mean, I used to own snakes, and I am fascinated with snakes. I've had 3 of them. They've all died, but not my fault. That's what you get when you have people babysit.
Yeah.
But um, that's that my understanding. I don't know if anybody has ever thought that way. There are reasons why I think that way, that I could get into. But has anybody ever thought that way? Like the snake being a good thing rather than a treacherous thing or a bad thing?
I had never thought it was a good thing until I learned about what they mean. Now I realize that they're not bad. They've just been portrayed
Right.
negatively and intent. And really, that's they had to do that. They had to write negative stories about the snake because it was so clearly goddess imagery and associated with her. And you've got to separate. And one of the biggest ways is you just write a story, start telling stories. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's done today. Propaganda 101. Start telling stories, gossiping, saying some nasty stuff about people, and you'll get people who believe it.
Yeah, I have always understood the snake story, where Eve is talking to this a little snake, to be very odd because, first of all, snakes don't talk. Second of all, we understand Eve is basically a kid or a baby because she was just born. But I don't think she'd be that stupid to talk to a snake if she was able to speak already. And I'm assuming, it's my understanding that the snake was just something or someone that she was well acquainted with for some time. Someone who became a friend and had serpent like features. And then, therefore, throughout time, manipulated and was sought out to be an actual snake because of its cunning and its vicious looks, I guess, and what people think snakes symbolize. But to find out what the snakes really symbolize is something I think very important because if not, it would be just going along with what everyone says. I have some imagery.
Ooh, imagery.
Some imagery. Of I mean, we all understand. Oh, there it is, StreamYard. We all understand that. Let me see if I pull the right one. We've all seen this photo, right? This is this is regarding what we were talking about earlier about the snake being on the tree, symbolizing a source where one can escape. Snake is relaying information to the woman. See how the snake could be easily staring at him, but he's staring at the woman because we understand that women are a source of life. They're the ones that bear children. They give children life. They nurture children, and they're the key to procreate, right? The snake understood this, or the serpent understood this. Serpent understood she was filled with knowledge, someone who can teach their children. And I have dabbled a bit into these tablets that supposedly tell the true story of the creation story of the Garden of Eden. I'm not too sure if this is something, Ryan, if you want to get into in a later episode or if you want to talk about it now, but it's regarding the Sumerian tablets.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody has ever heard of the Sumerian tablets. Anybody in the chat has ever heard of that?
Oh yeah. What are you which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the Inanna one?
Yes, yes, yes.
With the living tree?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Um,
Gilgamesh?
yes. I'm focused on the Anunnaki story.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody has heard of the Anunnaki because I know when I first heard about it, I was like, wait a minute. This is a bunch of BS. This doesn't make any sense. But then when you really start digging and really start putting the pieces together, it does start to somewhat make sense because in the Bible we have, in the beginning, God created everything, right? But in Hebrew, that word God is translated, or it's a plural form of gods, meaning more than one. And we spoke about this in one of our episodes before. And then in Genesis 1:26, it reads that God makes man in their image. And it basically says, let's make man in our image. You would understand our meaning more than one person who is speaking here, or at least more than one person congregated to discuss this. And so when you read into the Sumerian story creation, you will come across these beings called the Anunnaki. Do I have any imagery on that? And I don't want to dig too much because I know the time. Actually, yeah, it is 10:19. Do we dig into this, or should we just I don't know what we should do here, Ryan. I have some because this is a huge story. And it goes way it's yeah, it's dang, I should have never brought it up. I didn't realize the time. I'm sorry.
What was your
So
wanting to discuss it? There was a correlation. I'm sure there's a correlation that
yes,
you're trying to. Maybe you could just speak on the correlation between.
I was trying to take out the real definition of who the serpent was or who he was, and the Anunnaki are just a group of gods who fell from where they came from onto Earth during this battle. They came here to, I guess, how do I say, put themselves back up on their feet. And there's these two people, one named Enlil, one named Enki, and Enlil was supposedly someone who was a bad person, and Enki was a good person. In the creation story, it seems similar because Yahweh is portrayed as someone who's a jealous God who hates, who kills. Enlil was the same way, and Enlil was seen as like the supreme administrator. And he's actually called the Satan, which is basically where the word Satan came from. And that Satan actually means administrator. A lot of people have transliterated it into the adversary, just so that they can say that the serpent was the adversary. But Enki was seen as someone who was just, he was a trickster, but he was wise. And he loved men. He loved the human race. And this story goes deep, but the Enki was portrayed as someone who was serpent-like, and he was the one who was stationed in the garden when Enlil instructed Enki to take care of the garden. And Enki saw Eve, who was in the garden, and spoke, and then filling her with the knowledge of this is not going to happen if you eat from this tree, that you will know the good and bad, and you will have your eyes open, and you will become like God. But the reason why Enlil or Yahweh didn't like this was because obviously they're going to know and be just like God. So Enlil or Yahweh or Laudabal, whatever you want to call him, basically didn't like this. He was a very jealous person, and there's a lot to it that I went blank here for a minute, but there's a lot to it and a lot to understand. And it's very similar to the original Christian or Orthodox understanding of the creation story that we have to unlock. And there's not a lot of time to discuss it, but if you guys have any interest in it, it's the Anunnaki. They're just deities, gods, who came to Earth and basically started everything. That is the Sumerian myth or Sumerian teaching. These are tablets that were found, and the reason why I used to think that this wasn't a real thing, it was because it really sounds bizarre. But then you have imagery like this one, where these are tablets. These are Sumerian tablets that are encoded in language that nobody can figure out. Nobody understands it. You would wonder, why the hell can't we understand this? Where does it come from? And it has to have come somewhere. And then you think of the pyramids. The pyramids are something that is beyond, how to form that. There's no technology that could form this, and it had to have been under the power of God in order to make them. So it's very interesting, and I wish. See, this is a depiction of who Enki would really look like if he was a serpent, who Eve would have spoken to. Um, but it's a lot of information. I wish I could continue, but there's just time and all of that. I didn't realize that the time was cutting short, but so I apologize to randomly bring that and spark that up. But yeah.
Well, I think that it's just interesting that we can try to contextualize
Mm-hmm.
the different stories and adapt them and understand them the same way that the ancients would have. They would have known these stories, they would have drawn upon them, and that would be intentionally because you want people to know what you're talking about. If you
Mm-hmm.
started talking about some random thing, people are like, what the frick? But if you say, "Hey, you know that one show that we watch and where the guy does that thing and that people like, oh yeah, I know." Right. It's very similar. We're drawing upon
Mm-hmm.
older myths, trying to understand them. Um,
Right.
uh,
And we're not here to say that that is actually the truth. It's just you got to look into why were they even found in the first place? Why were they even made in the first place? These tablets, and if they couldn't figure out the hidden language in these tablets, how did the story come about? You know, things like that that tend to also go and be in the back of my mind. But it's just like Greek mythology. Greek mythology is based off stories of events that actually happened, but were twisted in a way in order to explain how it happened because it couldn't be really explained very well. I feel like that's how the Bible is formed in such a way where there might have been a flood, but maybe it wasn't something huge like the Bible claims it to be, and stories form, and we tend to live off of these stories as literal events. And that's where the confusion comes in, and people like us come out, critical thinkers. Then Gnostics come into play, and then they create their own version, which is more or less what I think Ryan was talking about um, in the earlier episodes of uh, Eve not being the first woman in Adam's life, and there
oh yeah.
was, and that's something that I think we're going to talk about in a couple episodes from now.
Yeah, I think so. But that's like these legends, that's how life was. You didn't call like the myths and legends that built these stories. Nobody
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, does this have to be true?" I don't think they were really worried about that. Like, we want to get the details, we want to have the dates. Back, it was just stories, oral stories to keep you
Hmm.
understanding and um, seeing how we relate to the divine around us, to our fellow man, etc.
Hmm.
That's what they are. So reinterpretation, of course, is going to happen. Um,
Yeah,
now, specifically, there's something else I wanted to bring up.
go ahead.
Wait, I'm on the wrong. Hold on, now I'm on the wrong page. Damn
Don't
it.
do it.
Here we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. There's other things in the Garden of Eden story that are overlooked and many people don't know about.
Hmm.
The allusions to the goddess. So, one of the other things is the name of Eve, which translates to like life, Hawa. Oops, I'm just going to scroll up a little bit more. So, so her name Hawa is something to live, to make alive, which, if you know, is Yahweh's name is HWH. It's like he is the Yah is
Hmm.
like the male part and the Hawa is like the life part. So it's something like he causes to be, he makes live, he is what he is. That's our interpretation of what Yahweh means.
Yeah.
Well, Eve's name, Hawa, is very similar to the ending of Yahweh's name, which means life. But as you also can see, it's very similar to words like snake, which again do mean life. So these are very similar words that sound alike in the language, and we have wordplay, alliteration like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the ancients did the same kind of wordplay. So Eve's name translates to, she gets this title of Mother of Living, and Asherah, her actual title is Mother or Creations of the Gods, or Mother of All Living. So we can also see how Eve could possibly be symbolic of the goddess Asherah. And as all the blame is put onto Eve for, again, all the problems in the world,
Mm-hmm.
similarly, the Bible does the same with its depictions and narratives of Asherah. She's polemicized and treated as the reason that the temple fell, the reason that people are falling away from pure worship, when in actuality, pure worship was worship of Asherah, in my opinion, and Yahweh was the deviation. But of course, that's not how the Bible writers are going to put it. So, one other quick thing that I think is important too, because you mentioned snakes, you brought up, the older myths that have
Mm-hmm.
Tiamat and Tanit have a lot in common because they are snakes. They are that uh, chaotic water dragon
Mm.
that symbolizes not only in that older creation myth, the seven tablets, like it symbolizes the mother goddess, which everything is formed from, her and her husband. So everything comes out of that watery, chaotic dragon. But in the Yahwistic um, view of that, Yahweh defeats, we talked about the high God has to defeat this watery sea dragon. Now, in the older story, it's Marduk. Now it's Yahweh. In some older stories, it was Baal. There's probably somewhere a story about El doing the very same thing, because that means now they are in the position where they create order from the chaos. And from that chaos, they create everything that lives. So, still, the goddess is responsible for everything that's alive, but the male god is now the one who takes that control and makes it out of her, instead of her, where she would normally just be able to create on her own.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't need the god, but now everything is in his power and we need him to do things for us. Isn't that wild? Like, does that not blow your mind to see the way the words are similar with Hawa and Haya, with the snake, and with life, with Nehushtan, with Tanit, with Tehom. Tehom is in Genesis, which is the watery deep, and Yahweh is his, well, could be actually the spirit of Asherah hovering over the waters, whichever you want to interpret it. But again, it's it's just taking that older story, reimagining it without really giving the life to the serpent, but still drawing upon that imagery so those who are reading it understand what's happening.
It's a lot of information, and it's a lot of similar stories with different interpretations, and it makes you wonder, like, what the hell? What was their motive? Why? And I believe this had a lot to do with the Tower of Babel, when everything changed, languages were formed, and different stories came across from those different cultures, I guess you would say.
So wait, you believe that that story is real, or you're just saying
No,
that? Oh, okay, okay.
I-
You're
I'm
just saying,
saying that if we want to consider the Tower of Babel a real thing, Babel, however you want to call it, this is where the languages changed, right? This is where the languages formed,
supposedly.
and different yeah, and different nations were gathered and separated, and a lot of these stories tend to change because of and it has a lot to do with also the language. The language would interpret a story a little differently. I mean, just the word pato in Spanish means gay person, but then it also means duck. So it's like things can change depending on the language. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
So
God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. For
that's
sure.
something in the back of my mind also that could have played a huge role in these different types of stories.
Lost in translation is a thing.
It is.
Right, there's many times where, like, I'm speaking to my Arabic friends, and they're like, how do I say this in English? There's not really an English way for me to say this. I'm like, damn, are we just that dumb we don't got the words for this? Like, what the hell is happening? But just think of that happening over and over and over through millennia. And again, it's just human nature to you can't remember all this stuff because it's not written down. It's not even oral traditions. A lot of this was not oral traditions. Like, people think like everything in the Bible was an oral tradition. No, it wasn't. So how the hell are people remembering this over all those years? So of course there's just going to be one, imperfection in telling the story, two, others' interpretation or how they think something should go, and three, of course, as you say, what if it doesn't make sense in your language? Do you know how many times people came across the word Asherah and it wasn't put in the Bible in the King James Version because they didn't know what it was, because they didn't want to do their research. And so they just turned it into groves. They turned Asherah into groves, which makes sense because she is the tree of life, it is her symbol, but it kind of erases who it was meant to be about.
Right. And this is more or less what episode 5 is going to be talking about.
Oh, is it? I don't even know what episode 5 is about.
Yeah, next week we're going to be revealing. It's okay. Next week we're going to be revealing who the mother goddess Asherah really is. Huzzah! And yep, it's going to be given by two people named Ryan and MJ. This is a handsome male who knows a little bit, but is also willing to discuss what he knows without shame. And then here's Ryan, who is very smart in her ways and is going to do a lot of the talking because I don't know a lot about freaking Asherah. But I will do my research for you guys. But it's going to be fun because these episodes are meant to be fun. I try to make them fun. Right?
Yeah, I hope more than anything we just get you to open your mind and question things, and hopefully we can question each other, which will maybe even help us better our interpretation.
Is there anything, you guys in the chat, that we said that might have been different in your interpretation? Is there anything you guys would like to bring to the table that we can discuss real quick before we head out?
If you have anything, let us know. If not, no worries, no biggie. We'll probably touch on a lot of this stuff repeatedly just because it's are so intertwined.
Yeah, it's intertwined. It's long. One thing leads to another. And then that leads to another. And it's just a lot of information, you guys. And we'd be here for days.
You guys don't want us here for days. You don't want us here for days.
But I wanted to say hi to everyone and give you my appreciation for joining on. Hello, Alora. I said hi to Vernon Shana, Watch Me Tower, Mr. Jonathan. We spoke to Pragmatic Crystal. Hello, Left-Handed Jedi. Storytellers Invented Gods, the Afterlife and Religion in General. Yeah. Doc Hayes, welcome back, my friend. He's very consistent on here, right?
Good job.
I just enjoy learning. Awesome. We're happy that you enjoy watching us also learn with you.
Yeah, honestly, I'm doing my best to learn too. I'm so tired of the same rigmarole and the same rhetoric and the same interpretations. It's so boring. Like, what is wrong with you, white people?
Let's be divergent, people.
Can you please add some spice to your chicken?
I know.
It's bland. Very bland. This Bible is so bland. Can we at least get some pepper?
You would think, man. For freaking oversold sold book
My
who's been
God.
existed for years, and we're still with the same story. We haven't. What's the point of all these scholars? What's the point of all these historians? All these
Mm.
people who do research, like
What are
there's a
you
reason why
doing?
they exist, and
Yeah,
then you're just gonna ignore the tablets, ignore all the evidence.
right. Like you repeat the same stuff over and over. Like, do y'all just rush to the goal to do the same exact thing that the last dude did? If you ask me to perform a task, I am absolutely going to try to see and interpret in a different way that nobody else has had. Not that to not make sense, but I want to push myself because I'm so tired of the
Mm-hmm.
same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Ryan has spoken.
and I'm getting off my high horse.
We thank you guys for joining on.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh yeah, my name. You like my name?
Oh my God, how did I not even read that?
I completely forgot that I put that.
I did. Oh my God, I didn't even read it. Like I saw it said MJ, but then I didn't read the rest. That's so rude. I'm sorry.
It's the opposite of tall, dark, and handsome.
Short camel.
Oh man, there was somebody earlier here that said, "Here it is." Yep, that's the best comment of the day. Yep,
You're so debonair. You have a way with the guys in the audience, MJ.
and I'm a mess right now. Like I don't even have a lineup. My
Right.
hair is all over the place. I'm wearing a white boy hat. Yep.
You're
Hold
strong.
on. This is tree on it, doesn't it?
Does
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it does. And we're
Oh,
talking about the freaking tree.
okay. Hey, it's symbology, baby.
Yes, sirree.
Yazuri.
All
Well,
right,
we,
I'm
we
done
got
for
to
the
get out
day.
here. I think we're done. I think
Nothing more
we're
to say.
spent. Nothing more to say. We thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Bring your questions if you have any. We want to do the research. We want to learn right alongside with you.
My wife got me this shirt.
Oh, I love that.
It says husband, dad, um,
Podcaster,
whatever
brother,
this says, brother. Yep,
producer.
brother, podcast
Nice.
producer. Yep,
Aw.
it's pretty cool. But anyway, bye.
Bye bye.
Deuces.
I just clicked.